Now we're going to talk about the analog inputs and outputs. Analog signals means it's essentially a signal that can vary smoothly between a range of numbers. So if I'm talking about an analog input signal, a typical one is 0 to 10 volts. So that voltage can vary between 0 and 10 anywhere. It could be 3.5 volts, 7.5 volts, 8.8 volts, etc. It can range anywhere in between there. And the Allen Bradley PLC acts like a voltmeter. And a voltmeter always needs two wires. You need a red lead and a black lead. See, here's my typical voltmeter. You see, in my voltmeter, I also have a red lead and a black lead. If I don't have the black lead hooked up to 0 volts, then I'm never going to read any voltage on my red lead. So just like that, I need two leads hooked up to my input rail for my analog inputs. And typically, you always have a minus, which is equivalent to the black lead, and a plus, which is equivalent to your red lead. And we have two kinds of plus here. We've got actually two different analog input points, IA0 and IA1. So I have two different ports. I have two different inputs. I can read two different voltage sources. We also have something called an IASHD, which stands for shield. A lot of times I will run a shielded wire to protect it against electrical noise. And that shielded wire has a foil cover on it. And one end of that shield, I might hook up to this to provide myself excellent grounding. Which reminds me, you absolutely have to have an excellent ground on your PLC. If you don't have an excellent ground, then you won't be protecting your PLC against voltage spikes, and it won't be nearly as hardened as you think it is. And that's also true for shielding. You need a really good shield connection for wires that do have a shield on them. In this case, we also have got a V plus and an I plus on the analog inputs. The V plus are for voltages that range between 0 and 10 volts. The I plus are for current loops, where I might range between 4 to 20 milliamps or 0 to 20 milliamps of current. Current sensing is a classic technique to allow for very long wires, and it's a pretty traditional tool when talking about sensors in manufacturing facilities. A lot of times you do have current sensors that give you an output to your Allen Bradley PLC. Analog outputs, I can also use my MicroLogix1000 as a little voltage generator, and I can send a signal using voltage in the range of 0 to 10 volts, or current in the range of 0 to 20 milliamps. And this one as well, I also need to hook up a black wire or a minus side to my signal, and then I can either use it as a voltage signal or a current signal. Not both, it's using the same output. And I also have a shield connection.